AI and work is obviously making some massive impact in the way all of us are working lately. And one of the biggest things that people are talking about right now are two memos that have come out of Shopify and also Duolingo. So both of them have said that they're going to become AI first companies. There's got a lot of pushback and controversy because people are saying, they're replacing workers with AI. They're not going to hire new people. There's some caveats to that, so we're going to break down what is fact and fiction on this. But no doubt AI is making some massive changes. And my prediction on this, we'll go over everything, is that we will see similar memos from virtually all tech companies or initiatives within the next 6 months. This is something that seems like a no-brainer. And once a couple of these companies come out and publicly say this, I think we're going to see a lot of other people following in their footsteps because it makes a lot of sense. And I think in addition to that, this is also going to accelerate a ton as soon as we have ChatGPT's operator in a little bit more of a stable version. It's something that I've tested out extensively a number of months ago. And whenever they push the next update that makes this thing 10 or 15% better, I think it pretty much can do the job of many, many people with someone that manages a number of these agents. So it's going to be fascinating to see. But anyways, let's get into it. Connor, what was the thing that stuck out the most as far as this memo?
There's two of them, as you mentioned, right? There's the Shopify and the Duolingo, and in a way they're making headlines because I think our fear around what AI is going to do to the labor force, right? Which is, does it disrupt? Like, are they only going to hire? Because we've seen some things before, Jaeden, where people are saying, oh, we're going to hire some of the things we're kind of gimmicking around. Like, we've hired our first AI employee. It's like, what does that mean? It's so dumb. But around the Shopify and Duolingo memos, just to give you a sense, they both said essentially the same thing. I'm kind of paraphrasing, right? But first of all, on the Shopify one, which came out first, I think his name is Toby Lutke. And what he said is that in the phrase that he uses, reflexive AI usage, which I don't love the phrase, but I see what he means. It's the expectation is that AI usage is going to be a baseline for all employees. Everybody should be using it. It's not optional. It is a core job skill across the company. But here's the thing that people were really kind of getting up in arms about a little bit, which is the new hiring policy, right? So before requesting new hires or additional resources, teams must prove that AI cannot accomplish the task, right? So, and then it goes into sort of how else they'll use AI. So let's just kind of compare that to Duolingo. It's very similar. They want to become an AI first company, deeply integrating it into their operations, et cetera, et cetera. But same thing, right? The company will gradually phase out contract workers for tasks that AI can handle, content creation, translation, things like that. And new hires will only be approved if teams can prove the work cannot be automated. So obviously, Jaeden, two very, very similar things. And Jaeden, I think the thing for me is that, so again, this is, as you know, this is kind of like what I do. Like I kind of like work with organizations to drive AI adoption, everything like that. And what I see more and more, and what I tell companies more and more is, forget AI for a second. Like, just what do you do? Like, how do you do business? Everything like that. And this is a perfect example. Nobody, for example, would be up in arms if IBM came out and said, "Hey, we have a new policy. We're not going to hire new people if we find that people in the company can already do that job, or we're not going to hire more people if we understand that like." We're not going to buy 10 new delivery trucks if we realize that all our delivery trucks are only half filled now. It's an efficiency play based on the technology. And I think sometimes we get caught up, and understandably, because it seems scary to people, I think, a lot. But ultimately, this is a business issue. So we talk about AI because we love the tech, and Jaeden and I love staying super up to date. We love sharing it. But ultimately, folks, this comes down to you. This comes down to what do you do? The analogy I use a lot is, electricity. If you were to explain it to people that didn't know what that was, it would be very hard. You wouldn't just use use cases. You'd say like, well, what do you do every day? Do you know what I mean? Like, and you use electricity to do whatever you're going to do faster and better. Same with this. AI is ultimately helping you do what you were already going to do faster and better. And it should be the most obvious thing in the world that if AI, if the tools that you have in-house that people are just kind of, for whatever reason, deciding not to use, it's like sending emails, instead of like mailing a letter, like, hey, we're not going to buy any more envelopes and stamps until you can sort of like show that you can't send them by email. It's just a technology here. So I understand it's scary, and I understand because it's like talking about labor and not hiring, and there are these like crazy buzzwords. But Jaeden, to me, this is a work problem, right?
Yep. No, 100%. Like you mentioned, it could be anything. It's like where headcount is not going to be given if a team can't automate more of their work. You could be like, oh, it's AI, but also it's like, yeah, but if it was 5 years ago and it was just software, and like if
Right.
software can do something, we're not hiring someone to do what the software can do. It makes sense. So I think that I think that makes a lot of sense. The other interesting thing is it's not like they're saying we're putting a freeze on hiring, we're going to hire any more people. They just said like, look, we got to check the tools that exist. And I think it's important too to make these kind of initiatives at a company, because some people are like, why was this necessary? Why don't they just like internally say everyone should use AI tools and not scare the whole world? I think it's necessary to make these initiatives because things are changing very fast and there's a lot of new tools that are coming out very quickly. And I think it's very easy for people maybe that have been doing the same job the same way for a long time
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do the work of
Yep.
looking into these
It
AI
feels
tools.
optional. Yeah, it feels optional to them,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Whereas if you actually did, it's like, oh my gosh, this literally is going to automate so much of what I'm doing. The other thing that is like a lot of people are worried, when they're working at a company, and I think this is something you probably encounter a lot. They're like, if it doesn't come from the top, they're worried that like, oh, if I spend like a couple hours or days researching and testing out tools to help me do my job better, maybe they'll think I'm not being productive, or I'm being lazy, or I'm like laxing off, or I'm just like hanging out, not getting my work done. If it comes as a directive from the top, look, we want you to be doing this, people feel like they can invest a little bit of time, maybe taking some courses, doing some research, looking at some tools, testing some things out. Inevitably, they're going to find things that make them much, much more efficient. But you do have to put a bit of a time sink in at the beginning. And so I think this coming from the top makes it so that people are like, okay, I have permission. Now let's go figure out what I can do with it. So I do think that's a big benefit of having a memo like this, and why I think we're going to see a lot more companies coming out with that.
I'm
One
glad
thing that
they
I
did
wanted to
it.
mention.
Yeah, go on.
Oh no, the only other thing I wanted to mention is like, what is the outcome of this? So we've also just had a story that Duolingo has launched
Oh, wow.
over 140 new courses, which they created with AI after they shared this whole plan to replace their contractors with AI. They're practicing what they preach, and they're able to really quickly scale. Like they're like, look, all of our employees should be using this, and also our company is doing this. Like we're able to use AI to scale out much more customizable courses, many more courses. It makes perfect sense. It's not like people are like, oh, but now it's just like chatting with ChatGPT. It's like you're still in Duolingo. It's still fun. You still have like the animations and the gamification that keep you going. It's just that they're able to speed up the amount of courses and the content that they create, which is, I'm sure they have all their quality assurance checks on there. So it's still great stuff.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't know. I'm glad that these memos came out. I understand sort of like the fear and everything else, but Jaden, I don't know how you think, because you sort of have you have AI Box and you have your software company, and I'm just thinking about this in terms of like our little company too. People are like, oh, how many people do you have? Like, I'm like, we're small because we use generative AI to do that. Because when you own a company, I own a company. It's one of these things where like that's the bottom line. Do you know what I mean? Like, and whatever I can do to
Mm-hmm.
save money, and generative AI saves me a absolute colossal ton of money. But what that means is, to your point about moving from optional into required. And I think 2025, we're definitely seeing as the year of the agent. I was wondering if it would kind of turn out to be that way. I think it really is, although not
Yeah.
particularly. I don't know. The efficacy of agents, I think, is still pretty low. I think that they're not terribly useful at the moment, but they will get useful very, very quickly. I think we have to be prepared for that, and people have to be understanding what they are very quickly. But more importantly, AI has to turn required. I mean, again, like if you had somebody in your company that was like, oh, I know, but I just don't like sending emails. I just, handwritten letters are sort of like where it's at. And that's all they did. At some point you have to say like, look, it's taking 4 days for the person to get this piece of mail. And if you get lost in the mail, like you just can't do that anymore. And yet with AI, there's just been such a lag, of sort of people taking it up and adopting. Now, I mean, again, people are using it, but to use it across their workflows, it's been very, very slow. And this is sort of where I think that companies like this have to mandate it. And even when the Shopify CEO is saying it's an expectation, even that I'd be really curious to find out, well, what does he mean by it's an expectation? Like, is there a requirement to use it? Are they going to track
Mm-hmm.
usage? All that sort of stuff. I don't know. Like, you're a software guy too. I don't know how you think about that stuff.
No, I think it's really important that you do that, because I know even for us in AI Box, we've had some developers in the past that were like, no, but like I don't want to use AI to do it because I just like doing it by hand. Like I just feel like
Yeah.
it's so much more quality. And it's like, yes, maybe you can bump the quality like 10 or 15% initially, but it literally takes you 5 to 10 times as long to do it. So like what we typically will do is have AI do a first pass on literally anything, and then you go in and tweak it and fix it and correct it however you want to do. But you're saving yourself so much time not starting with a blank canvas and trying to think of the format and the structure of everything of the code. So but it's like you kind of have to force some people to do it because they don't want to. They're used to doing something a certain way. You have to change their behavior. Once they change their behavior, they typically have the aha moment where they're like, "This is the greatest thing ever." But I think a lot of people are resistant. If you're really good at something and you've spent a lot of time perfecting your craft, doing something by hand, and all of a sudden AI can do it, it feels a little off-putting. You're like,
Sure,
you
yeah,
know,
it's
you're like, oh man, like I was so good at making these PDF, explainer videos or these whatever, and like all of a sudden there's this AI that can do it, and it's like maybe even better than me. Like that just doesn't feel good. But I think at the end of the day, you got to play with the tools you have on the ground. Look at what's out there. You can add
yeah.
your own competitive edge and art and a creative angle to anything. But if there's a tool that can help speed you up, you should use it. Especially when you're in a company that their
But
motivation is
Jaden,
to grow.
but I like how you framed it too. Just like last thing on this is because with coding and things like that, it allows you to speed up the stuff that you don't typically want to do and actually oversee kind of
Totally,
something doing it for you. And you can always do those things on the side and all that sort of stuff. And but the quality is really going to come from the people who understand these things great. Like I can't be a great coder, graphic designer, anything like that. Like as I've sort of said before, like Robert Haslam, who sort of like works with me on all this stuff, like he's an amazing designer. Like I can't do what he do, even though we have access to the same tools. So I would say
totally.
that it cuts down on the busy work and everything else. But to your point, people will have the aha moment, and I don't think they go back from there.
100%. Listen, if you enjoyed the episode today, the number one thing I would recommend doing is check the link in the show notes to Conor's AI mindset course. This is something that here we're talking about changing behavior, what everyone has to do at Shopify and Duolingo. The number one thing you can do to help change your behavior, and also I really think shift either your framework around how you think about AI at work, is this course. It's incredible. Conor has put his heart and soul into it. And I don't think I've ever seen an AI course get so many 5-star reviews as this one. So I highly recommend it. And if you're looking for something to help maybe some of your coworkers or your company, this is something that you can also recommend to your hiring manager or someone within your organization. I think this is a fantastic course to get bulk licenses for your whole organization. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. Absolutely mind-blowing, life-changing course when it comes to AI. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Make sure to leave us a rating and review wherever we get to your show. Conor and I obviously love them all. We read them all. We really appreciate you all, and we hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.